Your career started in the FA Cup in 1995 when Dave Whelan brought you over to Wigan, and you became the first ever Spanish player to score, didn't you, against, I think it was Runcorn?
Yes.
How proud is that for you to have that kind of accolade?
Well, I can't wait to have children.
And the Spaniards have combined to give Wigan Athletic the lead. Ole!
I think that's something that I'm going to enjoy telling my grandchildren and my children. But at the moment, it's just a nice memory. I think you fall in love with this competition. I think there is no other cup competition around the world that it develops that feeling. It was a wet day away at Runcorn. I never expected to have such a big turnout, and it became a very open game that ended up with a replay, and since then I knew that the FA Cup was something special.
Before you came over to England, were you aware of the FA Cup? Did you used to watch it as a kid in Spain?
You were aware of the final. I think the final was something that it was commented and it was given a lot of a football chat, if you want, but nothing else. You weren't aware of that giant killing story in the previous rounds, and it's such a fair competition where, if anything, the big clubs, they got a lot to lose, and the competition favours the underdog, and just that sense of following a dream, which I don't think happens anywhere else.
How do cup games and FA Cup games differ from league games, and what's so special about the occasion?
Well, I think you take the pressure off of what the league campaign is. When you start the season, you set your targets, and whatever that is, to get into the playoffs, winning a title or avoiding relegation. That brings attention, and that brings a continuity from game to game. The FA Cup is a fresh start. It's a real excitement with the fans. You can see when the draw is made, everyone looks where they're going to be, how they can make it, the arrangements. It becomes a special story within the league campaign, and there are games that the status or the league status counts for very little. And as I mentioned, just to play the games in one game favors the surprise, and favors the dream, and favors the one-off performance, something that in other countries is not an opportunity, and the competition favors always the most powerful and the best teams in the country.
And then 12 years after you made your playing debut in the Cup, you managed Swansea against Billericay. It was your first ever managerial FA Cup match. You won 2-1. Do you remember much about the game? It must have been quite tricky.
It was very tricky, and at the time I was well aware that we had a lot to lose, and we could make the headlines for the wrong reasons. And it started with the home side scoring a goal, and at half-time it looked a very difficult way back into the game. But again, that's just, it develops a special feeling. The home team that day looked like a team full of confidence that they could take the world, and that's what the competition does to you. And they are great memories when you can look back and say what happened on the day.
And having scored against Runcorn and managed against Billericay, and you're now about to step out at Wembley in the FA Cup final, did you ever think you'd be in this position?
Well, you don't think that way, and in football you need to learn that you shouldn't set targets, because in football you could easily overachieve or underachieve depending on the targets. I think being in the FA Cup final is a tremendous achievement, but the next step is winning it, and you don't play any game unless, or you don't have a good memory of a final unless you're winning it, and that's the reality of it. It doesn't matter what competition it is, and we already celebrated getting into the final, and we already celebrated getting to the European League. Now we can only enjoy the final if we can get a positive result.